And we are live. Hello, everyone. This is My Two Cents, and welcome back to Today with Two Cents, wrapping up your weekly news. As I announced last week, I am getting back to the regular pre-recorded Today with Two Cents videos, but every month is going to be a mix of those and the live streams, just because I have come to enjoy them. So we're going to do a bit of both. Tonight, I'm joined by Heartless Soy Boy and Scorch88, two of my patrons, and possibly will be joined by more. And like some weeks, I really have trouble finding news stories I want to cover. Other weeks, there are a lot I want to cover, and it's hard to pick. And this was one of those weeks. But let's roll right into everything that's gone on in the past week. First story, which is near and dear to my heart and was greatly sad to me, is the news that Mini AOC has shut down all of her social media accounts. For those of you who may not be familiar, Mini AOC was an 8-year-old girl by the name of Ava who bore a striking resemblance to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She made a series of videos in which she puts on a pair of glasses and impersonates AOC and does so in a hilarious way. Went viral. They brought her on Fox News at one point to talk about how she'd gone viral for making fun of AOC. This past Wednesday, a Twitter account, which is purported to be the stepfather of Ava / Mini AOC, said that she has shut down all her social media accounts because their family has received so many death threats and threats to reveal their personal information that he just felt for his family's safety, he had to take her off of social media. Now, there have been calls to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to condemn this, and all the while, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has predictably been silent. So, I mean, we've already talked about on streams before and how ridiculous the left is getting in its opposition to freedom of speech. Well, I shouldn't say the left, but just statists in general, how opposed they are to freedom of speech. But we're actually to the point where a child making fun of someone is worthy of her and her entire family being called out for death threats. And further, the woman in question, AOC, who's all about the young girls in America, she certainly talks about how they need to have role models to look up to. She apparently doesn't care enough about this young girl's right to freedom of speech to actually call out her own followers on this. So I have to say, shame on you, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I hated you before. I really hate you now. Call out these idiots who are threatening an 8-year-old girl.
Hey guys, what's up?
Night Shift.
Hey, Night
What's
Shift.
going on?
Hey.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, not much. I guess I just got here at the end of Mini AOC rant.
Yes. The first news story I wanted to cover this week is how disappointed I am that Mini AOC has deleted all her social media accounts. The reason being her stepfather, or a Twitter account claiming to be her stepfather, has announced that her family has received so many death threats and so many threats of getting doxxed that they felt for her safety and the safety of their family, they had to close the accounts.
Of course. Of course.
Cyberpunk Agarus says, do we know who or what faction doxed Mini AOC? I have not seen any reports that specifically name. I'm going to go out on a limb and say Antifa is involved. But I wouldn't be surprised if AOC herself is involved. Now, I don't know that. I'm not claiming to have knowledge of it. I'm just saying she is such an idiot and has proven to be so self-righteous and thinks so highly of herself that I wouldn't be surprised if she knows about it. Or, well, at the very least, I'm sure she knows about it. I wouldn't be surprised if members of her campaign or high-profile supporters of her have a hand in it.
Well, okay. You know, these guys, they love to give death threats to this little girl. I wonder what they would say if somebody did that to Desmond, or that Desmond is fabulous kid or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. The drag kid.
Yeah, the drag kid.
Oh yeah, there would be international outrage from leftists everywhere about how evil conservatives are trying to stifle children's freedom of speech.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. To people, to statists, freedom of speech only means it only applies if you agree with them. They will fight to the death for your right to agree with them.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And I hesitate to even, I know in the past I've used the term leftist a lot, as I'm just moving to statist because I'm frankly disgusted with people who claim to be on the political right, like Tucker Carlson and whatnot, are proving themselves to be just as bad as leftists in this regard. So just status, frankly.
Yep.
But anyways, I could rant about that all day. So long, Mini AOC. I hope you grow up and come back to be an awesome political commentator. Love to help you launch your new YouTube channel someday. All right, moving on. Next news story that I do believe deserves discussion. We previously talked about Representative Justin Amash, who was the only Republican who came out and claimed that Donald Trump is worthy of being impeached based on the results of the Mueller investigation. Now, I can't say I agree with his reasoning that he laid out. Amash is considered one of the most libertarian Republicans. Well, but he's not a Republican anymore. This week, Justin Amash has announced he will be leaving the GOP to become an independent. And many news outlets, from Fox News to CNN to MSNBC, have all stated that it is their belief that Amash is hoping to run for president under the Libertarian Party, which, to my knowledge, Amash has said nothing to the effect, only that he opposes how corrupt the two-party system has become. He says the Republican Party does not believe in small government, which, hey, he ain't wrong about that. But a lot of people are discussing, if he were to run as the Libertarian Party candidate, would that potentially split President Trump's votes and make it more likely that the Democratic nominee wins? All stuff worthy of discussion. So if anyone has any thoughts, I'll throw that out there.
Good for him. That's what I'll say.
Yes. Well, good for. I'm going to say the one thing I will say is good on him on calling out the corruptness of the political system, pointing out that Republicans are not for smaller government, even though they claim to be. And good for him for supporting libertarian principles better than quite a number of other politicians. Nonetheless, I don't really agree with the reasoning he laid out for why Trump is worthy of being impeached. Based on the results of the Mueller investigation, at least. I would say Trump is worthy of being impeached in as much as he has abused his authority, but that being said, every president has. So if we're going to go that route, it would also force me to say that every president who's ever sat in office deserves to be impeached, which on one hand they do, but on as a practical matter, comparing Trump to other presidents, I'd say his crimes were mild, at least with regards to the Mueller investigation. But yes, Amash is correct about all those things. Of course, even if he were to run, I'd say at this point, what difference does it really make? Both parties have become so rabidly statist, where we've got Republicans calling for increased government intervention to protect free speech from Google and these other giant social media platforms. We've got leftists calling for more government power to squash hate speech and little girls making memes of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and whatnot. But regardless of what they want to do with the state's power, both major parties are screaming out for the state to take more power. So there really is no... I have said that just because all governments are statist doesn't mean we can't recognize governments that are less oppressive than more oppressive, and that's true. But at this point, both major parties are heavily fighting for larger government with more power. They just disagree about what they want to do with it. So I'm not the least bit tempted to try and pick out who is the lesser of two evils anymore.
Yeah, that's kind of difficult at this point.
Mm-hmm. Next news story. I'm sure everyone has heard about Jeffrey Epstein, the well-known... Well, I'm not going to say specifically what all his crimes are, because that just merely saying the words will get this stream demonetized. But Jeffrey Epstein, 66-year-old billionaire hedge fund manager who's been trafficking women who are underage, hope I can put it that way, is now been arrested and is up for trial. Excellent. Always good to see a scumbag be held accountable for doing horrible things to children. But the question now is, will former President Bill Clinton be caught in the crossfire? It is well known that Bill Clinton has flown on Jeffrey Epstein's plane on several occasions. It is alleged that he dismissed his Secret Service detail before doing so. However, as of about 2 hours ago, a Bill Clinton spokesperson announces, quote, in 2002 and 2003, President Clinton took a total of 4 trips on Jeffrey Epstein's airplane, 1 to Europe, 1 to Asia, and 2 to Africa, which included stops in connection with the work of the Clinton Foundation. Staff supporters of the foundation and his Secret Service detail traveled on every leg of the trip. He had 1 meeting with Epstein in Harlem in 2002, and around the same time made 1 brief visit to Epstein's New York apartment with a staff member and his security detail. He has not spoken to Epstein well over a decade. He has never been to Little St. James Island Ranch in New Mexico or his residence in Florida. And in other words, Bill Clinton had no idea of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. Now, allegedly, that is the statement of Bill Clinton's spokesperson. Now, I will say for the record, I'm not in a position to know. However, we do know that Bill Clinton has quite a rabid history. There are a high volume of women who have claimed that he has sexually harassed them, if not straight out assaulted them, in the case of women such as Juanita Broaddrick. We know about his affairs in the Oval Office with Monica Lewinsky and others. Lewinsky, of course, being the most famous. So I just want to ask, setting evidence aside for the moment, as a practical matter, is there anyone who really believes that if Clinton was friends with Jeffrey Epstein, the two of them weren't taking part in his enterprise that involved women underage?
Oh, I would say it would be next to impossible if he wasn't, honestly. I mean, knowing how Bill Clinton is, yeah, I think he was. I think he was partaking in it, to be totally honest.
No, of course. And like I said, I'm not a journalist. I don't have the capacity to investigate those matters deeply. But again, with Occam's razor, all other things being equal, the simplest explanation is usually the right explanation. When have the Clintons ever done anything solely out of genuine concern for anyone other than themselves? In the case of Hillary, for increasing her power, and in the case of Bill, for satisfying his appetites.
Yeah. But that's what gets me so over. I mean, if they couldn't get Bill Clinton for sexual assaults, they're probably not going to be able to get him for this. And that's what really hits me so hard, is that even if he did have any involvement and they found some, he'd probably get off. He would probably get off on it. I mean, that's what really kills me about this whole thing.
And it does kill me. There is perhaps one glimmer of hope in this, and that is that at this point, Bill Clinton has pretty much lost usefulness to the Democratic Party. He's already been president. Hillary isn't going to be president. So at this point, if they throw him under the bus, it no longer really matters as far as the larger Democratic Party is concerned. Now, does that mean Bill doesn't have any favors left with politically connected people? Probably not. I would wager even if him and Hillary used up quite a few of them to try to make her president, they probably saved a few for this regard. But if there was ever a time when Bill Clinton could go down, I'd say it's now, at this point, when the Democratic Party at large will have less to lose if he goes down. So to the investigators and lawyers who are working on this case, please go after Clinton.
Yeah.
Of course, make sure Epstein is held accountable. Make sure anyone else is held accountable. You know what? There is an allegation. It comes from CNN. So who knows if, all these, with all these mainstream media sources, you can't trust any of them anymore. But CNN reported there's at least one report that Donald Trump flew on the plane. And if he is guilty of this too, take him down too. I have no love for Trump. He may have been the lesser of two evils between Hillary Clinton and himself, but that is not saying much. And what has he really accomplished in office? Just as I'm going to do this, I said I wouldn't rant about this, but I'm going to. Republicans everywhere are talking about how the Trump economy is so great, how jobs are booming and the economy's booming, which granted, at this point, I would say, yes, the economy appears to be doing very well. But what specific action has Trump taken that you can attribute that to? And how does it in any meaningful way differ from what Obama was doing? Somebody please answer that question for me.
It almost doesn't really.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Trump is talking about how he wants the Fed to keep, he was complaining about the Fed raising interest rates too fast, which is exactly what Obama complained about in 2008. Trump wants the Fed to keep interest rates artificially low so that the economy keeps looking like it's growing when in reality the bubble's just getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, he's not an idiot. He knows it's going to pop. He just doesn't want the Fed to pop it on his watch so that everybody blames it on him. He's vowed to cut back regulations. Now, there are a number of websites that are tracking the regulations that he's cutting back. And that's not to say he hasn't actually cut any, but it's certainly not in the orders of magnitude that would be necessary to affect real change and make the market freer. And more regulations are being passed, despite the fact that he's pulling back some of them. I mean, it's easy for news media outlets to grab this story here, this story there, but when you look at the whole, nothing ever changes. And that's because obviously the people in control of the system do not care whether there's a Republican or a Democrat sitting in office. They always get their way. All right. But enough of that. Well, we all know that's going on. Next thing I would like to discuss, not really a news story, so to speak. It's something that is near and dear to my heart. Everyone knows how much I love mermaids. Well, at least you probably have if you've listened to any of these streams. And I know my streams are really a smorgasbord. We talk about really serious stuff, and then we end up talking about stuff that's totally unrelated to politics, current events, economics, culture, smart living, anything like that, and just totally entertainment based. But on a recent Patrons Hangout stream, we talked about who we would like to play Ariel in the live remake of Disney's Little Mermaid, specifically because I'm such a fan of the concept of mermaids. Well, as it turns out, this past week, Disney announced who will be playing, and I've actually forgotten her name, so let me Google it quick. But
something Barry, something Haley or something.
Haley. I thought it would come up right away, but none of these articles actually say it. Hey, Halle Bailey. When I first saw it, I thought it was Halle Berry, but no, she's definitely too old. It's a singer by the name of Halle Bailey, and she is black. Now, as everyone I'm sure knows, the classic Little Mermaid, Ariel, was white and a redhead. Now, there have been mixed reactions to this, of course. People on the left talk about how great it is that Disney is embracing people of color. There are some folks who claim to be neutral and say, well, you know, Ariel's a fictional character anyways. What does it matter? Nothing about her character implicitly demands that she be a redhead. But I thought Eric July, whose channel Young Ripa, he covers libertarian politics, but also primarily comic books and stuff on his channel. But he did a rant about this and basically pointed out that when you look at movies and TV shows where this happens, it is always traditionally white characters being made black, never the other way around. And he said, as a black man, I shouldn't put words in his mouth. I don't think he ever used those words specifically, but obviously he is black. He said it is insulting that Disney and other studios keep doing this, because everyone knows darn well if you took a character that was in the original source material black and made them white, everyone would call you a racist. When you take a character that was traditionally white and make them black, they say, oh, it's a fictional character, who cares, yada, yada, yada. They know exactly what they're doing, and they are pandering to the intersectional left in an effort to get rid of all white characters, because white characters represent white privilege and all that other neo-Marxist garbage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unreal.
Like Eric July said.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty lazy. It's pretty lazy to change a character's skin color, because why don't you just expand the original characters who are black? Why don't you expand them instead of tokenizing white characters?
Or creating a whole new ones.
Yeah, exactly. They created a new Latino character in Marvel.
Mm-hmm. And here's what kills me about it. Here's what actually kills me about it is that Once Upon a Time, the show Once Upon a Time, and I know I've talked about this before, but the show Once Upon a Time actually did it way better than Disney, because they had a red-haired Ariel character, and she was outstanding for the part. She was absolutely incredible and perfect for it. And it just kills me, because the creators of Once Upon a Time seem to be doing it better than Disney. They seem to actually be doing it better than Disney's doing it. And it just kills me.
Absolutely. I dare say I will not be seeing this movie. I have actually liked some. Now, there have been elements of this in every one of Disney's live remakes. Beauty and the Beast had uh, a number of black characters, even though it was set in France in a time when slavery was still legal. In Aladdin, there was on the note of Aladdin, I saw on Twitter somebody pointed out the character that played Jasmine in the live Aladdin is half Indian and half white, if I'm not mistaken. And there was outrage that she wasn't actually an Arab. So obviously we see there outrage that an Indian girl was playing a traditionally Arabian character, but no outrage at all that a traditionally white, redheaded, and actually Dave Cullen, also of the channel Computing Forever, himself a redhead, pointed out that redheads comprise less than 2% of the human population and wanted to know why his people are being discriminated against.
Yes, we need redhead representation immediately.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I actually was blocked by someone I was arguing about that. People are just stuck in the idea of it's okay when blacks replace whites, but never the other way around.
Mm-hmm. Again, just a whole Night Shift and I did a collab about this, but Marxism, the modern Marxist concept, has essentially morphed from the bourgeoisie, proletariat, rich and poor distinction to the privileged and non-privileged continuum. And they've got lots of other categories in there: man and woman, gay and straight, trans and cis, and some mix of them all. But pretty much, if you're privileged, you are the oppressor. If you're unprivileged, you're the oppressed. Since whites are the oppressors of people of color, we have to gradually, using entertainment, in universities, in society, replace white people with people of color, replace straight people with gay people, replace cisgendered, even though that's a totally made up term, with trans people, all in the name of privilege and making everyone equal. Cyberpunk Agaris asks, wasn't Aladdin based on Indian mythology rather than Arabian mythology? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that the legend itself is Arabian, but what's interesting about that is in the original story, if I'm not mistaken, Aladdin himself is Chinese.
That might be correct.
Yes, because during the Middle Ages in the Ottoman Empire, the Arabian Peninsula, there actually were people of different races, in as much as traveling merchants on the Great Silk Road traveled from East Asia all the way to Rome and back again. So there were people of different races living in that region. Aladdin, in the original source material, I believe, was Chinese. So
yeah, that's cool.
There actually was a really funny meme I saw on Twitter too, where it had a really overweight Hawaiian man, and it said, let's have this guy cast as Mulan. After all, Mulan is a fictional character who says she has to be Chinese. All right, well, we actually blew through those pretty fast. If nobody has anything else to add.
Oh, there was something I wanted to talk about. There was kind of a topic I wanted to talk about. Mr. Dapperton kind of touched on this morning, and it was about that one kid who wanted Spider-Man on his gravestone, or his uncle wanted that. He talked about something that I wanted to clarify, because apparently over in the UK there was another kid with the same name who died at the age of 13 from similar conditions who wanted Iron Man on his tombstone. And Dapperton talked about that. He didn't get why the UK, and in the UK, Disney actually allowed that. They actually allowed for Iron Man to be placed on this kid's headstone, but they didn't allow it over here. And I wanted to clarify why I thought that actually was, because over in the UK, they have a media of ministry, don't they? They have some kind of it's a ministry that controls like media and entertainment, don't they?
It's been a long time since I reviewed all the ministries within the British government, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do.
Yep, they do.
Okay, they do. Okay, that's what I thought was going on. I wanted to add that because if this kid that wanted Iron Man on his headstone died in the UK, then that might be the reason for it, because this media ministry, I do believe they actually do, they do exist and they do function to control entertainment. What they can do is they can actually put Disney kind of in a chokehold, sort of, and basically be like, so like, let's say the Disney Corporation did to that kid over there what they did to little Ollie here in the United States. Well, if the British people get angry enough about that, if the British government gets angry at that, they can actually have the Ministry of Media go in and say, "Oh, you're going to pull that, huh? Well, then maybe we don't want Disney over." I mean, yeah, it's basically they can lose a lot of money on that market, and I kind of wanted to I kind of wanted to talk about that, clarify that, and just see what everyone thought about that.
Having not done in-depth research of it myself, I hesitate to comment on it until I do, but that is definitely something I want to look into.
Okay, and I just wanted to bring that up because I know Dapperton brought that up, but he didn't really get why that was happening, and I think that's why it is, because if Disney pisses off the British government, then that can happen, and they can lose a lot of revenue there. So I mean, I'm kind of torn about it because it's still like a government controlled ministry of entertainment, but I mean, it did kind of help in that way. I guess I don't know.
In that specific set of circumstances. Now, I would say the free market solution would be that if Disney is doing something unfavorable, obviously people boycott Disney. The problem is in a situation like this, it's too localized and individual of a situation for most people to want to care about boycotting. But
yes,
it also would have to do with intellectual property and copyright laws, which from a libertarian perspective, as I said on a previous stream, I'm working on a future video about intellectual property and copyright. So I'm gonna hesitate I'm not gonna comment on that now, and hopefully we'll get my thoughts out about that in a future video. But it's not as cut and dry as Status would have you believe.
All right.
Yeah, and also Disney is subsidized by the government. They get government subsidies.
They are, but but there's not really any control from the government that they have over Disney. So I mean, it's not exactly the same as the only thing about it is that Disney will take money from the government, but the government really doesn't have any control on what they produce unless it goes through the FCC and it's provided to be like too violent or too graphic or something like that. So I mean, that's really the only control that our government has over Disney. And no, 2 cents, you are correct in that regard. If this was an actual free market economy and not a corporatist economy, then yeah, Disney would probably be getting their arms twisted by the American people basically saying, you know what, F you, we're not going to watch your stuff. So I mean, yeah.
And honestly, with the quality of films Disney's been putting out, I think they're going to go that direction anyways.
Oh my God! How that would almost be poetic in a way. It's just Disney keeps doing such bad media that people just finally stop viewing their content, stop buying their content, and
they've already
and they literally go from being like a mega corporation to bankrupt. I mean, how that would be almost poetic.
Yes, I mean, let's face it, they've already killed Star Wars. After Avengers finally teeters out, they'll have lost that. These live remakes of classic Disney films, they've politicized them too heavily, and The Little Mermaid, I think, is probably is the nail in the coffin that's gonna cause that to tank. I could be wrong, but that's my prediction. Disney is going to need heavy government support to stay alive, which I would say means, much like Google and Facebook and these other large tech corporations, they'll start doing things that are going to piss people off. And get others to call for more government intervention in order to fix the problem, but in reality, which will set them up and guarantee they can never fail once they're under government control.
Well, I mean, they already are using the government because they had a law recently changed where copyright is now extended for another 100 years. Because Mickey Mouse was supposed to enter in the public domain, but they changed the law where now they continue to keep him at. Mickey Mouse almost indefinitely.
Mickey Mouse is indefinitely copyrighted.
Pretty much.
And they can do that. They can actually do that. Wait.
Well, can't help but think. Oh, Meg. Hello.
Hi, Meg.
I want a break from work, so I'm here. Hello.
Hello.
Hey there.
Well, on that note, you're just in time for the weekly hottie, which, as usual, you put together. So
Yay!
thank you to Meg for editing together the footage for the weekly hottie, as she does for all the live streams, at least. Somebody want to give me a drum roll? This week's weekly hottie is Kyra Santoro. This is older footage from 2016, but she is a Sports Illustrated model, which Meg, as always, made an excellent edited together version of. Let me
Thank
get to
you.
the screen sharing here.
I can't wait till the day where you can actually incorporate the video, especially since I'm using a different song now.
Well, actually, Pipsqueak did introduce one possible method for that, but he hasn't made it to a lot of the recent streams. So let's get some music. All right, excellent job on that one, Meg.
That
Yay.
weirdly worked. The audio that you were using weirdly worked with the video. I don't know what perfect timing you did, but
Yeah.
somehow it worked with the editing.
Sometimes the video just works with the music.
That it does. That it does. And Meg, that is the same song, background song that Meg put into her video. So for those who want to check out the clip, which I will, Meg, if you can post it right after this, that would be great. I have been posting the links to the weekly hotties immediately after the stream, and for some reason they always disappear. So either
do
if somebody
it.
else wants to post it right after, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll post it tomorrow to make sure it stays.
Actually, I could do it right now since I have my editor open. I mean, I have my YouTube thing open right now.
All right. Well, that stream actually went by faster than it normally does, but got through everything I wanted to discuss. I know we've all had long days. We were talking about that beforehand. So anybody have any closing thoughts for this week?
It's okay to rest.
That's true. Anyways, just another quick reminder to follow me on BitTube. I've talked about that before, but this week, BitTube actually announced they are moving to a new website called BitTubers. Bit.tube is going to be closing down, and all accounts will be migrated to BitTubers. And BitTubers has been made to be a little more like a combination between YouTube and Facebook. You'll be able to share videos there, but also Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all kind of rolled into one. They'll channels will share videos, but you can also share your social media posts and whatnot. And using their airtime extension, you can earn cryptocurrency by posting videos, and you can earn cryptocurrency by watching videos. So even if you are not, once that platform gets up and running, if you download the airtime extension and use BitTuber's platform, you can support my channel without actually donating money on Patreon or Subscribestar. Obviously, benefits will still be for those patrons who use the other platforms, but that looks like it is going to be a very viable platform once it is up and running. So I'll quick shout out to that. Other than that, we'll see what other ridiculous news stories pop up between now and next week. And as always, that is my 2 cents. So take it for what it's worth.